Welcome to episode number 50 and part 2 of Direct Connections with Jonny Mopar. Last week we left you guys hanging off a cliff with Jonny about to tell his crazy near-death tin grill story, so we're going to pick up right where we left off. And like always, when Jonny and I talk Mopars, we have a good time, and sometimes we get a little carried away. So please know that there is some colorful language in this episode that may be unsuitable for younger listeners or those sensitive to bad words. Please be advised of that, but most importantly, enjoy the show. And without further ado, if you are a Mopar enthusiast, then you are in the right place. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into the best Mopar enthusiast-driven podcast on planet Earth, and I am your host, Chris Albrecht, better known as the Mopar Hunter, and this is Talking Mopars Direct Connections.
You're listening to Talking Mopars with the Mopar Hunter, your direct connection to all things Mopar.
Yeah, so I'll get right into the big story.
Yes, I was gonna ask you about this, but I wanted you to lead us there. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think we're there. I think we're there now. It's time. So, we would do this stupid stuff, and so this one night, my buddy's Power Wagon, very similar to mine. Earlier in the day, Todd and Eric were working on the brakes. They put brake pads on the or shoes or whatever on the on his truck, on Eric's truck. And so that night we're going to go out drinking and hit the hills and have fun, go 4-buying. So after dark, for whatever reason, we decided to, and I think it was because, he's got to try his truck out because he just put brakes on it and stuff. So, and there was no issue with the brakes. But we all pile into his truck. We were younger back then. We were skinny, So there's 4 of us. There's 4 of us in this Power Wagon. Eric's in the driver's seat. I'm in the number 2 spot. Todd's in the number 3 spot. And Scott's in the number 4 spot against the passenger door. Right? So we go to take off. And this is not even a mile from Todd's house. It's all dirt roads out there. So we're cruising, and then Eric jumps on it, and he had a 360 in his truck, and whoever put that motor together put a nice cam in it. I don't know what size it was or anything, but that truck got on. It was a badass truck. So he gets on it, kind of fishtails it a little bit, and then Todd talks smack and says, now he gets on it, because earlier in the day when they went for a test drive, Eric was just babying the truck around, with the brakes. So Eric slams on the brakes and says, "You could get out and walk." Just joking, But when he did that, when he slammed on the brakes, it was, the road had just, the dirt road there was all decomposed granite. It was DG. And when he slammed on the brakes, it was right when the road kind of crested and started to go down slope a little bit. So the DG is it's like marbles, and beneath it is like hard dirt, so you have hard dirt, decomposed granite on top of it, and you're slamming on the brakes, and the weight of the truck is like lifting off of the truck,
God.
because you're going over this crest, and the truck pitched sideways. And I remember, if anybody's ever been in this situation, it's true what they say, time slows down.
Yeah.
It's I think it's the adrenaline that just shoots through your body, and your mind is just thinking super fast, But here we are sliding, going sideways, where the road is if you can imagine the road straight, the truck is sliding off of the road, starting to drift off the road, but it's completely sideways. And I'm looking out the passenger window, which is the forward direction we're going. And I remember thinking, all this is in seconds, but I remember thinking to myself, Scott's going to die, Todd's going to die, and I'm probably going to live. I might live. I think I said I might live.
God,
And then
jeez.
Eric, this asshole's got a seatbelt on. He's going to survive. Because the 3 of us didn't have seatbelts, but he had his seatbelt on. And the trucks only came with 3 seatbelts, didn't have four.
Yeah.
There's four of us in there. But just as this truck is sliding, and I want to say we're within a couple of feet of impact. There's this huge tree. I don't know if I said that. I guess I didn't. There's this huge pepper tree that is squared up with the cab. And that's why I'm saying, we're going to hit that tree. And Scott's going to die. Todd's going to die. I might live. I'm probably going to be pretty screwed up.
Yeah.
And then Eric's probably going to be okay, And I'm looking at this tree, and just before impact, the truck lunged forward just enough where the cab didn't hit square with the tree. The cab was just in front of the tree. So the side of the bed between where the wheel is and where the cab is where the tree impacted the side of the truck.
Wow.
And I can't describe to you the sound, man. It's like the biggest bang you've ever heard. I mean, just huge bang. And then everything went black. I couldn't see anything, but I'm awake. I'm conscious, and it's like being in like a dryer, like, washing machine, like you wash your clothes, in a dryer, you dry your clothes in, you're inside of it, getting hit from every angle, every side. I just remember being hit everywhere. And it was like, holy crap, And then finally, and the metal crushing, like the sound the metal makes, just crushing. And it was like almost never ending, it just kept, and you're getting hit, and just going on forever, And then finally it's like, it ends. And I remember it's like looking, I'm trying to open my eyes as big as possible, and I can't see anything. It is pitch black. Like, holy crap. And I turn around, and behind me I can see the window, the rear window of the truck. I could see light coming in because it was like a full moon that night, or I don't know if it was a full moon, but it was a bright moonlit night. So you can make out the window. That's it. Everything else is black. All I could do is make out the window. And he had those sliding opening windows,
Yeah.
So I turn around, I go out the window, I turn back around, and Eric's right behind me. He comes out the window, and, I'm thinking Scott's dead. I'm like yelling for Scott. I'm like, Scott, are you okay? Are you okay? Nothing. And I'm like, and it's like your fear that something bad has happened is just like rising, right? And then I'm yelling, Todd, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, but I'm stuck. I'm like, oh shit. And I'm thinking, like, is the truck laying on his arm or whatever?
Oh,
and then I go, what about Scott? Scott, okay? I'm screaming, right? I'm screaming as loud as you can. And Todd turns to Scott, and he's like, in the most mellow, calm voice, he goes, Scott, are you okay? And Scott's like, yeah, I'm okay. Asshole.
Oh, man.
Like, you didn't hear me screaming? So Scott gets out. Todd had to take his jacket off to get out. Now, do you remember the Levi jackets? They're like the denim jackets with like kind of the wool inside of them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Kind of old school. I mean, popular back then.
Yeah.
He had one of those on. And so he had gone over when the truck hit. I think Scott ducked down and Todd went over him. And then he got between the door frame, like the window frame, and the top of the cab right when it crushed, and it grabbed that jacket and it pinched it in between. It's like, it's a good thing he had that jacket on.
God.
And he had this huge red mark on his back so I think his skin got in there too, but the jacket kept it from going in too far, Scott cut his pinky finger, had to get 4 stitches or something like that. Give him shit for that all the time. And get out, and I could feel something wet, I'm like touching, I'm like, oh crap, there's blood, and the 4 of us are there, and I'm looking at the 3 of my friends, and I'm like, well, how bad is it, and Eric's like, oh, it's not that bad, and Todd's like, no, it looks fine, and then Scott's like, oh my, it looks terrible, they're like, Scott, you idiot, you're gonna freak him out. So they said it looked like a kind of like a shrimp, spread apart. It had this big old cut right here. Yeah.
Jeez.
So flannels were cool back then. I had a flannel on. I took it off and I tied it around my forehead, and I was like, we're in shock. It's like we had been drinking, but I wouldn't say we were hammered drunk. We had a few drinks, enough to go to jail over, right?
Yeah, sure.
And we just hit this tree, and so we hit the tree. The truck went through a chain link fence, and it's laying in some guy's front yard.
Oh God.
And when we were all out of the truck, I reached inside the cab and I turned the headlights off because the lights were on. The truck was dead, of course, and it's just a mangled heap on its roof. It's laying on its roof. I don't know did I make that out? Because when I came out of that back window, the bed of the truck was over my head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this thing was upside down. So freaking out. What do we do? So it's like, well, we got to go home. So we ran home, which was, probably a little less than a mile or so. We get home. It's like, well, what are we going to do? The cops are going to show up and stuff. I said, dude, we got to go get that. We got to get the beer, because we had loaded the truck up with alcohol, Back then, I'm just going to be honest and say it. But Zima was new back then, and I liked it. But I caught a lot of shit for it. So
we were all loaded on Mike's Hard Lemonade, and we rolled the truck.
Right. So when this truck, we had like, I don't know, we had probably 4 12-packs, I'm gonna guess, in the truck. And when the truck hit the tree and spun in this guy's front yard, like it was like a sprinkler went off. Beer, Zima, it just went everywhere. Everywhere, right? So I tell him, I'm like, we got to get back over there. We got to get all this beer. We got to get all this alcohol. We got to gather it up before the cops show up. Yeah, it's a good idea. Well, Scott's like, well, I'm going to Magic Mountain tomorrow or something like that. So he's like, I got to go. So he bails. He goes to urgent care. He gets his 4 stitches on his pinky finger, right? Here I am, blood all over my face. And Eric, it's like, we got to do something. I can't remember. I don't know if it was Todd's back was just hurting so bad or whatever it was. He didn't go with us. So it's like, okay, we're going to jump in my truck, because my power wagon was at Todd's too. So Eric and I jump in my truck. Here's the plan, because my truck's super loud, right? I just had this guy follow us with a shotgun. I said, okay, nobody came out of the house, by the way. Like nobody came out anywhere. The truck's just laying in this front yard and there's no people around it. And we ran home. So I was like, here's the plan. We're going to drive down to my truck. It's super loud. So you're going to jump out. You gather all the beer up. I'm going to go to the end of the dirt road, turn around, come back, and we're going to throw all the stuff into my truck. And then we're going to go home. And then we'll come back. We keep coming back and checking on, see if the guys come out of the house or something, And he's like, yeah, that's a good plan. So we're driving down. Eric jumps out, goes to gather beer and stuff. And I keep going up the street. I'm getting to the end of the dirt road, and then it turns pavement, right? It's kind of like an L shape, or think of it as a T shape. I'm on one of the T's, but it's dirt, and then it's pavement in the other direction. So I can kind of see the paved street far away, and then it curves to the left, right? I could see a car coming, and I've been back in those days. I got pulled over all the time. Right. So you kind of get to know the cops.
I know what they look like.
MO. I know what they look like. I know what they don't like to see. Yeah. Right. They don't like to see a vehicle stop and turn around. It's like, whoa, why would you come to the end of the road and then turn around? So I'm like, just in case it's a cop, I don't want to look suspicious. I'm going to go straight. And then when I see it's not a cop, I'm going to turn around, come back, pick up Eric. Right. So I go straight. It's a freaking cop. It's a freaking sheriff. And I'm like, oh, shit.
And you could see the truck from the road, right?
You can, but only right in front of, like, you'd have to be right in front of that house, and you can look over, you can see it. It wasn't as obvious as you might think. There was plenty of bushes and stuff like that.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
unless you were looking, especially it's nighttime. I mean, it was moonlit, but if you're driving down that dirt road, you never know there was a truck laying upside down in some guy's yard, you
So
know?
the cop's not going to look over and see your buddy holding a bunch of beer with
Well,
a rolled
yeah.
truck. Oh, man.
If he doesn't make any
Oh,
noise, he might not.
man.
But so I go straight to cop, like, oh shit, another cop. And I'm like, oh my God. And I could get, like, as I'm going up the hill and I'm looking back, the two cops like pulled up next to each other and we're sitting at the end of the dirt road, like talking, you know. And I'm thinking like, oh, they're doing their little, we're gonna get our game plan together and then we're gonna go over there and see what's going on, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm using telepathy at this point, and I'm like screaming, like, Eric, like, fuck, run, just run, dude. You know, you know,
Oh,
I
man.
can't turn around. They're gonna get me if I turn around. So I kept going, and then I had to go all the way around, and I'm 4-bying through the hills trying to get back to Todd's house because where he lived, there was really only one way in off of paved streets. You know, you could get there through off road, you know, a lot of off road trails and stuff like that. But so I had to take those to get back to the house. I wasn't going to drive by the cops, you know, so because they were right at the only entrance, you know.
Oh, man.
So I don't know how long it took, but I get back to the house and Eric comes flying out like, where the F were you? You know, like, here you are, you dropped me off and then you abandoned me, right? To gather all this beer. So he's like, I gathered what I could, which I think, like I said, I think we had about 4 12-packs. He had like maybe 6 or 8 bottles, right? It's like nothing. It was nothing compared to what we had. And he's like, he waited for me. And when he knew, you could tell I wasn't coming back, he started running down the street with these 6 or 8 bottles back to the house. So I told him what happened, that these cops had showed up, and I thought they were showing up for the accident, but they weren't. They just happened to be there, and they just happened to stop right there and were just BSing with each other.
Wow.
They weren't there for us. So it's like crap. So we think we went back maybe one more time at night, and no, I don't think we did. I think we just slept it off. And then the next morning, I mean, I could not sleep. I mean, talk about the stress level, right? So I'm like, dude, first thing in the morning, we got to get, when it's daylight, as soon as you can start to see, we need to get over there and start gathering up all these bottles and stuff. So it was like, I don't know, 5 a.m. So it was still dark, but it was like, you know, you could see the lightness coming a little bit. You could see a little bit. And we drove down there in my truck, and we're going through the yard, gathering up all the bottles we can. There's still nobody outside. Drive home, dump off all the alcohol. We did that like 2 or 3 times. So I think by the 3rd time we were pretty confident, like we had cleaned up all the evidence that there was any, you know, alcohol involved.
Except for all the blood. There's blood everywhere.
Right.
No, it smells like beer, but all we see is blood.
Right. Yeah. So, dude, this truck hit so hard, it ripped the perch that's welded onto the frame where the front leaf spring attaches to.
Yeah.
It had just ripped it away.
Oh,
and the whole truck was just mangled. It was just wadded up, you know. And like I said, it was on its roof. So we went to my parents' house, which was probably a couple of miles away off-road wise, grabbed some chains, and I grabbed some spare rims, you know, those bent rims that I had, brought those because it blew out all the tires on the truck. All the tires were flat. We threw a chain around. Well, so when we finally, probably 7 a.m. or so, the owners of the house, or they were actually tenants, they actually came out, and the guy was like, oh, we're like, hey, you know, we had an accident last night. We'll totally pay for your chain link fence. Like, sorry about all that. And he was like oh, no problem, no big deal. He's like, it's not my house anyway, it's the landlord's, and uh he goes, we're like, well, we'll pay for it. So Eric gave his information to the guy to give to the landlord so that we would pay for the fence. But the guy never ended up calling us or anything. But the guy that was living there was like, I thought I heard a big bang. And he's like, I came to the window and I looked and I didn't see anything. So I just went back to bed. So
Wow.
I think we probably turned the lights off of the truck just at the right time,
Oh, that's funny. Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are lucky,
So,
man. That's
oh, dude, yeah, it's it's not every day that you come that close to. I feel people can write it off like no big deal, but yeah, I realize like I came within inches of death. I mean, if that truck hit the cab, I mean the cab hit the tree square. Like I was probably right. I think Todd and Scott would probably be dead, and they'd probably be my airbag. I might live, but I may not be a happy camper. Um, it could have got real ugly. I mean, and we weren't going that fast, even though Eric was romping on it and stuff. The truck was maybe only going 45 miles an hour. It wasn't stupid fast, but at that speed, hitting a solid stationary object, yeah. I mean, when you see pictures of the truck, it's like, whoa, there's a lot of energy there. It
oh
just
yeah.
got absorbed by the truck.
Yeah, that's man, what a crazy story. I think we can take
Yeah.
a few things away from this. Number one, kids don't drink and drive. Number two,
Yes.
always wear your safety belts. And number three, for the love of God, if you die, you don't want to tell Jesus that you're drinking Zimas. Okay?
Yeah. Right. That's
Lord,
exactly it.
Lord,
That's
we were drinking Jack and Cokes and things got crazy.
Right.
You know.
Okay. Come on in.
No, man,
Zima?
that's
No, you're going back out.
man, that's a crazy story. You posted pictures, right? I'm pretty sure you
Uh,
posted.
no, so I haven't posted pictures of Eric's truck yet. I might have in the past, but I was kind of, because I'm assuming you're going to air this probably Monday or something.
I'm gonna try. Yeah,
Okay, well,
that's
I
the
mean,
plan.
I was sort of, I don't have a lot of pictures of the Power Wagon actually, unfortunately. I mean, it was the 90s. Like, we didn't have cell phones with cameras. It was,
Yeah,
getting
I thought
pictures was hard.
for some reason
But
I thought maybe it was somebody else. I thought I saw a picture of a wrecked truck and there was a crazy story attached to it. And I thought it was you.
yeah, yeah, it was probably me. I've posted the story before in the past, so you probably saw it.
But and there was
But not
pictures of,
recently.
but there was pictures of the truck wrecked.
Yes, I know
Okay,
I have several of them,
okay.
but I've lost them. I have one, but that one picture is all you need to see how bad it was.
'Cause I was pretty sure it was you that posted a picture. You posted the story, and then I swear I thought there was a picture that accompanied it, but maybe not. I'm not sure.
I probably did,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think it was a while ago. 'Cause
Yeah,
I haven't talked about it recently.
because I
But
remember you mentioned it, and this was long after I think I saw that post, and I was like,
mm,
oh, and it rang a bell. I was like, huh, but I didn't know the detail. Like
yeah,
I'm just learning all the little details now. That's crazy. Did you end up
yeah.
getting stitches?
I did. I went after we took care of the truck. So we threw a chain around the truck with my truck, and we pulled the truck back over on its wheels. We had to pull the truck from the rear backwards to get the leaf spring to get close to the frame, and then we threw a chain around the frame and the leaf spring to hold it from, because it would want to dig into the ground and then basically just carve into the ground. We couldn't pull it. So we had to pull it backwards and then chain it up. And then I only had 2 spare tires, the bent rims, we put those on the front of his truck just to drag it. So we drug it with my truck from that guy's front yard all the way to my parents' place. So, yeah. So another little bit of a funny was, I can't remember how long the truck was there. It was there a few weeks at my parents' place. And my parents have 2.5 acres. My dad's a car guy. He's got tons of cars. I've told you I have tons of cars, right? It should be no big deal. But for whatever reason, one day, they had this single wide trailer that my dad used as a shop. And my bedroom became the end of it, so I got to sleep in there. So I'm like down close to where the truck is sitting in its mangled state. One morning I'm laying there and I can hear just this. I'm like, what the hell? And I open the door and there's my dad with the yellow 76 Dodge van, the chain wrapped around it, and he's got it hooked to Eric's truck and he's trying to pull it out of the yard, but the van is just a peg leg, and it can't pull this mangled truck that's got 2 flats on the rear, and the tires just like he was trying to jerk it, the chain would jerk and then the tire would just spin.
Oh,
and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, code enforcement's gonna get on us, we got to get this thing out of here. He wanted to just abandon it out in the hills. Like, I go, all right, just calm down, let me call Eric, let's try to take care of this. In that time, Eric had found another truck, but it was what do you call it, a ute line or the
Utiline?
Utiline.
Yeah, no,
it was a step side.
Yeah, no step sides, Johnny.
Utiline. It was a Utiline.
Sure.
4x, and he pulled the drivetrain out of the mangled truck and was going to put it in this other truck, but he just hadn't done it yet. So. And he also had a 67 Chrysler that he bought really cheap with a 440 in it. He bought for the motor and the trans. And so I called him up like, dude, my dad is flipping out. Like, we got to get your stuff out of here. You got to get your truck out of here, It's like, all right, So that day he came over and we ripped the drivetrain out of it. There was a guy that lived, within a mile or two from us that scrapped metal. He was just a big scrapper, and he'd have like a big 40-foot dumpster thing. So we took what was left of the truck to him, and he just cut it up and threw it into the dumpster,
made it disappear.
Made it disappear.
He's like the mob guy that takes care of the bodies.
Yeah, exactly. All the evidence is gone. It never happened. So. But so sorry, going back, after we drugged that truck to my place, then I went to urgent care. Yeah, and then the doctor's like, dude, you could have had a concussion, like you should have came right away. And it's like, well, if you only knew.
They always tell people, hey, don't go to sleep if you've been hitting the head very hard. Johnny's snoozing, waking up to his dad trying to yank the truck with the van.
Right. No, that happened weeks and weeks later. But
it was sitting there for weeks.
Yeah, it was sitting there for weeks.
I didn't put that together.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I thought your dad was just super paranoid. I was like, wow, he acted real quick on that. Get it out of here.
No, it took a while, but he just tripped. He didn't. I had no idea. Like usually people are like, man, we really got to get that thing out of here. These you kind of start ratcheting up to it. No, he just went from like mellow to full tilt. It's got to get out of here today. So we had to rip the motor out of it that day and then junk the truck and rip the 440 out of the New Yorker and then junk the car. Yeah.
Is that a situation where your buddy just kept the title and just basically tore it up or what? Or did he have to give it to the scrapper guy?
No, he didn't need to get my buddy kept all that stuff.
Yeah.
He did keep all that stuff. So
wow.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. I hear stories like that. Like my buddy, he I don't know if he probably doesn't want me telling this story, so I won't tell his name.
All right.
I don't even know if he listens to this podcast anymore, but he was in his family van. They had a like when the Dodge Caravans got restyled and they were like the bubble, the spaceship looking vans. Mm-hmm. He had been up partying the night before. I don't know to what extent, but he had his mom and his younger brother, I think just one of his younger brothers, in the van, and he fell asleep behind the wheel and rolled it with them inside.
Oh my God.
Thank God they all lived.
Yeah.
Van, I mean, thank God Chrysler builds good stuff, because that van pretty much saved their lives.
Wow.
I hear stories like that, and I'm just like, I couldn't even imagine. I've been in minor car accidents, nothing too crazy, but
Yeah.
anytime a roll is involved, I get anxiety. Like my hands were getting sweaty as you were talking about that. I was like, oh God.
Yeah. Dude, I hope nobody ever goes through that. I mean, it was just, when you see what's left, it was just like, wow, I'm really surprised we survived, even in its current state. But being there and seeing that tree come right for the cab, and then that last 2 feet or so, having the truck just slide forward just enough where it hit behind the cab. That, I think that was the difference between life and death.
Yeah.
You know, I I don't want to get too religious on anybody, but that incident, I've always struggled with, is God there or not, and that incident, I said, well, I'm gonna give it my best foot forward to explore that possibility.
Yeah.
So I think I went to church that following
God,
Sunday.
I would have been going to church. I would have.
Yeah.
My opinion, God was watching over you. He said, you know what, Johnny, my son, you need to be on Talking Mopars someday. So we're going to spare you this time.
Yep, exactly.
And next time it better be some Jack Daniels or something.
Right. Something worthy of you entering the pearly gates.
That's crazy. I totally get it. I've had a couple, not car accident related, but I've had a couple near-death situations, and there's just that when it's over and you're thinking about it, like, how in the hell did I manage to get through that?
Yeah.
It's like maybe divine intervention,
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah. Crazy.
I took it as such. We'll see. I mean, I've got friends that are full-blown atheists, and like one of my friends is like, well, and I'm not trying to push anybody one way or the other, but he'd said something like, well, if there was a God, why didn't you just say, hey, John, don't get into the truck? And it's like, well, okay, I guess, yeah, that's true.
It's all about learning lessons. Come on.
Right? Yeah, you're not going to learn any lessons just not getting in the truck. So you got to go through that horrific experience to really get it, a wake-up call,
Yeah. So let me ask you this. After that happened and you realize, okay, I escaped death, were you like, I need to buy more Mopars right now? I need to go buy more Chargers.
Short. I got to get as many as I can.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Man, wow. That's insane, man. Do you still talk to your buddies?
Yeah. Todd moved to Missouri. I don't talk to him much. I mean, I think it's been a couple of comments here and there through Facebook. He came out probably like 7 or 8 years ago when we saw him. I see Scott like maybe every couple of years or so. He lives out in Long Beach. Eric lives fairly close by, and I talk to him every now and then on the phone. But I've seen him. I see him not as often, but I do see him every now and then. He's also buddies with my buddy John Jones, and John painted he's got a 69 Roadrunner. It's a 383 4-speed car, vitamin C. It's beautiful, beautiful car he's putting together. John painted that, and then he's got a 69 GTX. He's got his high school car, 69 Roadrunner with a 383. He still has. It looks exactly the same as he had it in high school. So kind of funny, but he's held on to it all these years.
Right on. Yeah, I can't blame Todd. I would have moved as far away from you as possible too. You tried to kill him once, and then you almost died with him once.
Right.
Yeah, see ya. Nice knowing you, Johnny.
Exactly.
I'll take my chances in Missouri.
Right.
Oh,
hey,
man.
but it was Eric he had to get away from. Eric was driving, not me. So.
Gosh, crazy, man. You mentioned your dad's van. Now, I know recently you posted a picture of it on Facebook. Your dad had a boogie van.
Is that what it's called? The boogie van?
When they have the
I mean,
porthole windows and they're kind of like the
okay.
70 hippie van, boogie van. I don't like the term creeper van
Yeah.
because I don't think they're creeper vans unless, I don't know, I guess if you were 17 and you had a crazy van back in the day and now you're 57 and
Yeah.
you still have it and you
Yeah.
still have it and you still think you're 17 and you're trying to talk to women that are young or, God forbid,
I think
girls.
it's
Like, yeah, you're a creeper.
I think it's the 80s vans that are kind of the creeper vans,
If
and they're
it's a
usually
custom van, it's not a creeper van. It's a cool van. It's the work vans with no writing on it when they're beat up.
Yeah.
When it's like it looks like a painter's van, but there's no like, John's painting.
Yeah.
When it's unmarked, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because
Yeah.
the ones that have the bumper stickers that say "Don't laugh, your daughter might be in here." Those are probably the safest ones. Because
probably.
a real creep's not going to advertise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so tell us
This is
about your
true.
dad's boogie van.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I can remember he bought it used on a used car lot. It was a '76, and I think he bought it. It would have been in the early '80s. So, and I remember he paid $1,000 for it, and I remember his payments were like $100 a month or something like that. So that was probably an aggressive payment for a $1,000 van.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, we did everything in that van. We take it camping. My dad would fly model airplanes. It's called free flight, and it's like you build these airplanes out of balsa wood and tissue paper and put these 2-stroke motors on them. The whole premise of the thing is you basically are allowed a certain engine run for like say 7 seconds. I think it starts 11 seconds and then it goes down to 7 seconds or something like that. So within that 7 seconds, you got to get the plane as high as possible, and then it has to stay in the air for 5 minutes or more. So they would fly out in the desert where all these, heat and thermals and stuff like that are. So the plane would get a lot of lift, and you'd fly these things. You'd either have timers or a fuse on it, and the stabilizer would pop after the 5 minutes, and then the plane would, ideally, it would come down. We'd chase them with dirt bikes, and then you'd get the plane, you'd go back, and you'd do it all over again. And every time you got one of those, it was a max. But anyway, the van, we went camping to do that stuff in the van all the time. That thing was the daily driver. My parents drove it constantly. So it was a big part of my whole childhood growing up, along with my mom's 72 Charger,
Very cool. Does your dad still have the van?
No, unfortunately. Yeah, it sucks because, he ended up getting a 72, which was a longer van with a 360 in it. The yellow van had a 318 in it. And he drove that one for a while too. And I didn't grow up in that van, but after a while, I think something went wrong with it. Something broke on the frame or something. Maybe it was the steering on it. And he got worried about, I think code enforcement actually nailed him on it, because I think I told you the car that was the Chrysler that was buried in the backyard.
Yeah.
Well, at some point there was they wanted to put a highway through his property, like connecting two other major freeways. And he was right in the path of that. And so they were sending code enforcement out to that. Everybody in that stretch, they were just nailing them because it's rural and people have all kinds of shit out there, like trailers and junk cars and trucks and who knows, whatever it is. They would come in there and nail all these guys to get them to clean up their yards. So my dad had to get rid of a lot of stuff, and he ended up giving the vans to my sisters. One of my sisters is just bad news, drugs and stuff, and tweaker friends, and gave the vans to her tweaker buddies, and they just cut it up. So,
man.
Well, I don't know if they cut it up. They scrapped. I think it's got scrapped though.
Sure.
So
now I'm trying to, you have to forgive me because I've been looking at a lot of vans recently.
Yeah.
Did the yellow van have a porthole in it?
Yeah, it had the round.
Mag wheels too, or what? Yeah.
Yeah, he had slotted wheels on it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was cool. Dude, actually, so another bad thing about being out in rural areas is people dump stuff out there all the time, right? Like they dump their trash.
Yeah.
There was this one property, and it was like it was like a ravine in this property. Nobody lived there, but people were just dumping like tires and rims and stuff like that in there, right? And there was a whole bunch of molds, fiberglass molds for vans. I don't know if it'll fit a Dodge or if it's a Ford or whatever, but I went and took all these things home. I never made any fiberglass out of them. As far as I know, they're still at my parents' house somewhere, but there's like these fiberglass molds for the, the flares you put around the wheel well openings and stuff like that.
Yeah, Johnny. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I'll
Yes.
have to ask him. See if he still has that stuff.
Let's figure this thing out. Do you know you might be onto something, because it's hard to find that stuff now.
Yeah.
So I mean, we might have to start doing some fiberglass work on the side, Johnny.
Exactly. Make some wings and some spoilers. And
I love how I've been obsessed with vans for a minute now, and you failed to tell me that you found a bunch of fiberglass molds for fender flares for custom vans. Thanks, Johnny.
Sorry, man.
No, that's awesome.
I told you now.
Yeah, no, definitely look into that for me. That'd be cool.
I will.
Because it's not cheap, I'll tell you that. Those, I thought, I guess with it being such a small market now, because obviously the van craze is, all but dead. There's still some hardcore vanners though. Man, I found it's funny when you dive deep into these little pockets of Mopar culture and you find the vans. It's so funny. And it's not just Mopar vans. Vanning is still around. These two percenters. It's hilarious, in a good way. I love it. I grew up. My dad, took me everywhere in his van, and we went to van fairs. And by the time I was around, in the mid to late '80s, the van, shows and like events had tamed down quite a bit. All those people were older and had kids, so it was more family oriented. But you look into some of the history back in the day, man, it's like every van, they call them truck-ins or van fairs or whatever, like every single one of them was like Sturgis for vans. It's just like, I didn't realize until I started doing some real looks into the history of vanning, how crazy it was back in the 70s. Like there was one event, the Van Nationals, I think it was, where like thousands upon thousands of vans descended on this little, I think it was a campground or fairgrounds in Colorado somewhere. And I guess it's a whole different culture. I'm used to the muscle car culture and other cultures that have been around in my era, but looking
kinda
into
hippie-ish,
that,
huh?
yeah,
Kinda
it's crazy. Yeah, and it's something else. It looked like a lot of fun. Like I think back and I'm like, I probably would have did exactly what my dad did. I probably, the gas crunch would have come around. I probably would have been stupid. I probably would have sold my muscle car, and I probably would have bought a van, and I probably would have, God knows. But
dude, I know you're younger than I am, but you're what, like 35-ish or something like that?
I'm 35. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is probably before your time, but when I was a kid, in elementary school, we had the metal lunch boxes. You've probably seen them.
Oh yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So one of the most popular ones was a Star Wars lunchbox, right? And yeah, well, anyway, Star Wars. I wanted that freaking lunchbox so bad, and I got the cheap. I did get a Dukes of Hazzard one.
Nice.
But it wasn't the metal one. It was the plastic one, which is like the cheap version.
Yeah.
So you got made fun of when you had the cheap plastic ones. So I had to keep begging. And eventually my parents bought me the Star Wars one. So I had that. And dude, I have it here somewhere. I still have it. It was actually in the trunk of my mom's Charger when I brought it home back in 2000s some point. But anyways, that famous picture on the front of that lunchbox, it's got the X-Wing fighter, and it's shooting at a TIE fighter, I believe.
Okay.
Right? There was a Dodge van by my parents' house in this property. It was all black.
Had the mural.
It did. It had the X-Wing
Yes!
fighter on the side with
Yes.
the laser shooting off of it at this
Oh,
X-Wing or this TIE fighter. Yeah, it
nice.
was bad. And all the stars on it and stuff like that. It was awesome.
That is
It
cool.
was a long van, so it didn't have the pod window like my dad's did. It had the huge window.
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah.
the whole tail of the van was
Mhm.
longer, and then it had a big old window back there. Like there's probably some plush couch on the other side of that glass, But yeah, it was cool. I always thought it was always sort of like, man, that would be cool to have. And I thought about knocking, but it was like, what am I going to do with a van? there was, I was still too
Party.
busy.
That's
Yeah,
what you're going to
yeah.
do? You're going to party? No, man. That's,
I was too busy spending my money on chargers and
hey,
stuff like that.
I
So,
don't blame you one bit. Keep
yeah,
the van. I'll have the chargers.
right, right.
Yeah, that's one thing about vans and trucks. Don't get me wrong. I love Mopar muscle cars, but the chances of you seeing the same one, you could
Mhm.
go to a show and you got a 69 Charger. It's black, sweet. You could go
Yeah,
to a show and see the exact same, I mean, pretty close to the same car.
yeah.
You go to a van show. I mean, if you look at some of these magazines, because I don't know if anybody out there listening was the one, but I've been bidding on these little lots of van magazines on eBay, and I've been getting into these little bidding wars, and it's really starting to piss me off. But they're so expensive, man. They're selling
Yeah.
single van magazines for $40. I'm like, are you out of your mind?
Wow.
But my dad has a whole collection of them, but he doesn't know where they're at.
Nice.
He's got boxes of them. So I'm like, hey, Dad, you know how much those things are worth? I just want to check them out, but you never see one van look exactly like the other one unless it's plain. Because the cool
Yeah.
thing about vans was people were doing that crazy stuff with the murals and the airbrushing, and it allowed the creativity. Especially when you talk about the interiors too. You're talking about a home on wheels, a nightclub on wheels, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Just insane. Much like the mini trucks and the street truck scene, where you're probably never going to
absolutely.
see one exactly the same.
Yeah.
Whereas in the muscle car scene, you might see, they're still
Yeah.
cool. You might see two, F8 green, Charger RTs, that look
Yeah.
exactly the same. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just what makes me a car guy, I guess. I just love it all. I like seeing all the different cultures within.
So when you were saying that, back in the day when you're dragging your Dart home, I guess, or maybe you and your dad went to go look at that possible GTS, right?
Oh,
Was it
yeah.
a GTS or a Formula? I think it was a GTS.
It was a Formula S that we went to go look at.
Okay.
It was a fastback. Yeah.
Okay. Like that time you were saying it's pretty dry. Like there wasn't a whole lot of Mopars around and stuff.
Mm.
Did you guys go to boneyards a lot and stuff? And did you see any vans in there?
This area, we had a few boneyards, but they eventually got knocked down pretty quick. I think the last time we have a little highway here that's pretty popular for wrecking yards, and to be honest, they're going away one by one. So like we had a classic wrecking yard actually right by my current work, and that was, gosh, it's probably been gone for 20 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have a couple like dedicated classic boneyards now.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, not really anything special. It was there was a series of wrecking yards called Fitz, and they were basically just whatever got wrecked on the road. Nothing crazy special. But like now you have Wildcat Mopars out of Oregon.
Yeah.
They're badass.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go down there. I'm trying to go down there and do a podcast from there. I got to talk to those people because they're pretty cool, and they've got a lot of cool stuff. And they actually have a couple vans that I was looking at. But I've already committed to Stacy's. I'm getting that
so
van.
you're gonna get it.
I don't know. I'm aiming for spring. I got to sell some more t-shirts and
Nice.
figure out how I'm gonna get it home because it's the bigger wheelbase. Stacy said he can fit it on or he towed it home on a 16 footer. So I'm thinking about trying to buy a trailer myself this winter. But that's going to take me some t-shirt selling and buy some stickers, please. But yeah, I want that van. They're just hard to find, and Stacy's a buddy, so I feel if I'm gonna buy one, and my buddy's got one, I might as well buy one from somebody I trust. You know what I mean? And he's, to be honest, he's given me a really good deal that he doesn't have to. So Stacy, if you're listening, thank you very much, buddy. And I told him, you know, because he wants to see the van go to somebody who's going to appreciate it, because he, you know, he's restoring a 70 CUDA. So, you know, his priority obviously is with the CUDA. I can't blame him there. And he realized that he's, you know, it's been sitting for 3 years and he's probably not going to get to it for a while. So why not give it to somebody who, you know, says he's going to do something with it like me. But I realized that if I got a van, that I would have essentially replaced all the vehicles that my dad let go, that he let get away. His Dart. So I got basically the same Dart. If I get a van, we got the van, and then the turbo Mopars, we kind of went overboard with that, so we got plenty of those. So I would have replaced all the cars he let get away that I've always wished that we still had. And you know, I do want to keep searching for his van. I've got as many vanners locally and even as far as California looking for any information or even the van itself, but I don't have very many pictures of it. So I hope that somebody recognizes it. I mean, long shot, because my dad sold it to my uncle, and a couple years later, my uncle offered it back to my dad, but my dad had no place to park it, and he regrets it to this day, not buying it back for $1,000. But my uncle sells it to some kid up in Bellingham, Washington, and I guess shortly after the kid bought it, I guess he wrecked it. I don't know how bad. I don't know where it ended up. I don't know if it was totaled. So I reached out to as many vanners as I could, just to maybe there's something. Maybe if someone just said, hey, that was in a wrecking yard a long time ago, probably got crushed. Cool, thank you. You know, because my luck, I'll buy Stacy's van, I'll be towing it home, and then I'll see my dad's van drive right past it, and I'll go, damn it. Now I have to have two vans. You know? But it's something that I've always wanted, and I stayed away from them because of the negative stigma. But I'm 35 now, and anybody
You're creeper age now.
Anybody that doesn't like my van can kiss it. I'm not.
Hey,
I
kid,
just don't. I
want
just
to buy some T-shirts?
I thought it would be funny to. You want to be a guest on my podcast? I actually thought it would be funny to get a personalized license plate that said "No Candy." But yeah, man, that's my current obsession. I just want to have some fun with a van, and you know, I'm kind of an old school guy, even though I'm young and it wasn't my generation. I just kind of want to keep it alive. And
I think it's very cool. I mean, my buddy Eric that had the Power Wagon that rolled, I mean, he's got a van like my dad's now.
Yes.
I don't think it has, I think it's a full panel, so I don't think it has the pod windows and the quarters, but yeah, it's totally cool. And he's freaking obsessed with it and probably spends more time on that thing than he does on his Roadrunner, you know. So it's a Dodge van, yellow. It looks just like my dad's.
So is he on social media? Can I hunt him down and look at pictures of his van? Oh,
I'll ask him for some. He put rally wheels on it. Yeah, it looks good.
Really? Rally? Oh yeah. So, you got to show me some pictures of that thing, Johnny. Come on.
All right. I'll hit him up. But he's like totally anti Facebook and stuff. Okay. He doesn't do social media at all. So
all right, cool. Then we can share pictures of his van everywhere, and you won't know anything about it.
Exactly.
No, man, that's cool. Like I said, I just didn't realize that there was still a subculture of vans. So that's cool to me, because I envisioned it as a way for me to take the show on the road, because I was like, if I do go to shows, you know, I set up a table and whatnot, but you know, if I fly to them, then I can't really take all my stuff. You know, so it would make it, the logistics of that was a little bit weird, but I thought maybe if I get into a good enough place with the podcast and I had a van, not only would I have a place to have all my stuff and be able to store it, but I'd also have a place to sleep so I could save on hotels, you know, and if I really wanted to get crazy, you know, I could make it capable of towing, so I could tow my Dart or my tin grill to shows and stuff, because I really want to go. There's a couple things I really want to do. I want to go on the Hot Rod Power Tour someday. I definitely want to go to Roadkill Nights. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
And I have to go to Carlisle, the Wellborn Muscle Car Museum. There's just so much stuff I want to do that's so far away that I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to myself by just flying out there. because I'm a truck driver by trade and I love driving. So road trips to me, nothing better. I love road trips. So maybe I'll swing down to California and you and I can go to Roadkill nights in the van.
Yeah, I'm down.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
Yeah, we'll record it. Put it on YouTube.
Well, I think that would be kind of a cool spin, is to, take your podcast to the road and check out all these cool places and events. And
we'll bring those Mopar heads and we'll go find Freiburger and you can say, hey, I want my charger back. Here's your heads.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw that. I'm going to blow up your spot here real quick.
Okay.
I saw that Freiburger reached out to you and wanted to trade a 73 Charger for those heads.
He did. I know he was joking, but yes.
That's funny.
So he knows who I am, and he if you saw it, it was a petty blue 73 or 4, I can't remember.
Oh, really?
But yeah, he jokingly sent me a message and said, I'll trade you the Charger for those heads back.
Yeah, that's funny. God, that's funny. That's cool, though.
I told him, I said, well, they're signed, right? The box is signed, so I'm going to need the car plus some cash.
Yeah. That's funny. Do you have any plans for those heads or what?
Not anything in stone. There's a couple. What I'd really like to do is, if everything just worked out perfectly, what I'd love to do is put those heads on my dad's 68 Charger, the blue one.
Yeah. And
get that car all squared away. And it's all patinaed. The car is, it's not in good looking, condition. So I'd like to take it to the zip tie drags. It wouldn't qualify for the $3,500 limit, because even a crappy Charger is worth thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So
you'd have to enter a LeBaron or something for a Mopar to be even qualified for that.
Yeah. But what would be really cool is if he was there with General Mayhem, I would love to park my dad's Charger next to it, and kind of show the pictures of the two cars. And because the hood that's on General Mayhem came off of my dad's car. So I think that would be kind of a cool tie. And if I could put the cylinder heads on my dad's car and do all that, it's kind of, it kind of nicely ties everything together, right?
That'd be pretty cool. For those, it just clicked. For those of you that are new to the show, because I know I have a lot of new listeners, Jonny Mopar, my guest today, is the former owner of Roadkill's General Mayhem. So if you go back to our previous episodes, I advise anybody that's new to this show to start at the beginning and work your way. But my favorite episodes are Direct Connections, where I talk to people, and Johnny's been the most frequent guest. You get the award for frequent guest.
Right on.
He's been on 3 times, and every time's a good time. We just, shoot the shit and just have a good time. And his story about the Roadkill Charger that used to be his, it's still one of the most listened to podcasts. So I'm happy with that.
But I think it went pretty well. And I think it's one of those interesting things, because I don't know. I always kind of wonder when I see those cars on those shows and they're getting restored, or, like even on Roadkill in this case, it's like somebody owned that car before these guys.
You want
somebody owned the car before them. Yeah, what's the backstory? Like maybe even an original owner of the car would be kind of cool, Just a curiosity, I guess. Yeah. But you never really get any of that.
No, you know what I equate it to? And this is going to be kind of corny, but hear me out. I equate it to like superheroes. Like General Mayhem to me is a superhero, and every superhero has a backstory. How did Batman become Batman? Bruce Wayne's parents were shot by the Joker. You know what I mean? So it's like there's always a cool backstory, and hearing General Mayhem's backstory was really fun for me because I'm a fan of Roadkill, a fan of General Mayhem, and you're my friend. So it was definitely cool when I found that out. I was like, what? Because I know that we met through Tin Grills. Yeah, we both were fans of each other's trucks. And that's how our friendship spiraled. And that's when I found out you're the old owner of General Mayhem, I was like, what? It's crazy, and then you realize when you really get down to the brass tacks, it seems like everybody in the world of Mopars somehow, like 6 degrees of separation is Absolutely. I mean, it's probably even crazier in the Mopar world. It's nuts. Everybody knows somebody, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely.
that's cool. And
I
yeah,
think that one kind of worked out just uniquely because, most people, like, if that car, let's say that car went to some other TV show and they restored it, it would look nothing like it did when it was in my yard. The fact that,
yeah,
Freiberger got the car from me and didn't do anything with the paint job, like,
yeah,
you know, left it exactly how it was is in the I sent him the pictures, by the way, while the car was still in my yard because I was like, hey, I have pictures of the car when it was still in my yard at Romaland. Do you want them? I can PM them to you or whatever. So he's like, yeah. So I sent him all the pictures and stuff. But, you can see the car in my yard, of course, missing tons of parts. It's nowhere near as completed as it is today, but you could see the dent in the front edge of the red fender. You could see the blue hood and the patina on it and where the hole was on the hood. And, you could tell that's the car. There's
yeah.
no, because they didn't change anything on it,
Well, but
it's,
even crazier than all that is Eric LeMay made a clone of
yeah,
General Mayhem.
right.
You know what I mean? So the car's getting cloned. It's like, shit.
Somebody had to do it.
You have enough chargers. You could start a General Mayhem clone company, and you just produce the clones and be like, I was the originator of it anyway. So Jonny Mopar is the OG of General Mayhem. That is hilarious. God, that's awesome. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, hey, man, we've almost gone 2 hours, but I do have some exciting news. I did post something on Facebook, and I reached out and said, hey, we're going to do an episode here. Let's see if anybody responded, because I basically said, hey, ask us anything, just to see if anybody wanted to reach out and, interact with Jonny Mopar and myself on today's episode. Let's see what we got here. All right, we got one. That's
okay.
That's a start.
Right.
Well, let's take a look here. This is from Josh Turner. He says, I have a 1970 Plymouth Sport Fury 383. My car has a curved-in back window, but I have seen the same year with a bubble-style back window as well. My question is, was that an option of some sort, or maybe just a difference between late year versus early? And if so, which is which? That's a good question. I'm trying to think in my head. So that would just, I think, were there two versions of the Furies? Was there a fastback and just a regular?
I think there might have been. I think because he said it was a Sport Fury, right?
Yeah, so maybe there's a difference between the Sport Fury and just the standard Fury.
There is a rare version, and they did it in 70 and they did it in 71, and he said his was a 383 car? Or?
Yeah, Sport Fury 383 1970. Curved back window.
Man, I would have to add, I have a buddy, Steve, the heck is his last name? Steve Albu. He is a C-body nut. He knows everything. Yeah, this guy knows everything about C-bodies. I'd have to get back to him on it. I don't know off the top of my head, but it wouldn't surprise me because, like we just talked about the Ram Chargers earlier, all these weird little things that Chrysler did that you may not even know existed, unless you have one.
Yeah, because 1970 was the first year of the rapid transit system. And gosh, I'm trying to go through all the stuff in my head because I did a lot of research about the Sport Fury for that episode. I just didn't dive as deep as I wanted to because I didn't have the time.
Yeah.
But I know that there's the...
Did he send a picture of it by chance?
No, he didn't send a picture. I'm picturing the rapid I'm picturing the Sport Fury GT in my head. That's what I'm picturing.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
That one, tiny little strobes that went all the way around down the sides of the car.
Yeah, I'm just going to Google it really quick. I just want to see pictures of this thing. 1970. But hey, we got one hit and neither one of us knew the answer. Sorry.
Yeah.
But hey, that's the game we play. We don't bullshit anybody here on Talking Mopars, okay? Yeah, okay, I see the coupe. I'm pretty sure he's talking about a fastback. We'll have to get back to you, buddy. Johnny, reach out to your friends And see, I'm going to reach out to the guy who owns the Hearst 300 because he knows. I mean, he's a C-Body guy, so he should know. But I see there's one. So maybe it is just the GT that has the bubble? Interesting. I'm gonna have to do more research now. Now that's gonna bother me for the rest of the weekend. I'm gonna have to look into that. But so, hey, thanks for reaching out. That was a good question. So thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. We will get back to you and we'll just respond on the post. So
cool.
All right. Well, we got one. I was really hoping it wasn't going to be a dud, and that's hey. I like the challenge. That's a good one.
Yeah. I've owned 269 Furies, if that means anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what haven't you owned, Johnny?
Super B, a 70 Super B. I've not owned.
Oh, okay.
Or 69.
We got to talk about this. Mike Coffey. Oh man, that car is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
That guy has all the luck. I'll tell you that. Well, all the money, clearly, and all the luck. That car is something else.
And connected, yeah.
Yeah, God.
He's got a lot of friends.
What a cool car. Are you going to get a chance to go see that thing or what?
Oh, I want to. Yeah, he basically, he said, hey, when it wasn't in his yard yet, he's like, it's going to be in my yard soon. So,
man.
Got to come check it out.
No, that car is
I gotta find an excuse to go check it out. Yeah.
How far away are you from him?
It's probably through traffic and everything. I'd say it's like a 45-minute drive.
Oh, okay.
It's not terribly far away.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I got to find an excuse to go over there and check it out. It's
that those guys got, dude.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, isn't that nuts? Did you see the picture Mike got of the of that RT from the previous
with the white
owner,
top with the white top on it? Yeah, I saw
it's
that.
like their wedding day or something like that.
Yeah, just married and they got all the cans towed behind it. Yeah, that's cool. That, man, God bless those guys that collected that, those cars,
right,
and just kept them for all these years.
Yeah.
For crazy car guys to uncover these collections and go, holy shit, they had 6-pack Super, or wait, he's got a Coronet, right? It's not Super B.
It's a Coronet RT.
Yeah. Still just as cool in my book.
Oh yeah, and it
6-pack car. God.
Yeah, and they're more rare. I mean, they didn't make very many of those cars.
Is that a numbers car?
Yeah.
4-speed pistol grip numbers, the right color. God.
Yeah.
White top. Yeah. Did it have originally white interior? Do you know?
I think it did. Yeah.
God. We're going to have to, the next time you and I get on this podcast together for Direct Connections, we might have to see if Mike wants to jump on and talk cars with us. That'd be fun.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure Mike's got all sorts of stories.
Yeah, he does.
I wish I had the money to get that little A100 off him, man. He's got this white A100 that is bagged. And this thing is, I mean, it looks like it's into the ground. Is how low that thing is. And it's famous. If you look, because believe when I looked up Dodge vans, I just had to look up bagged Dodge vans, and it's like all Mike Coffey's A100. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, that car is really cool. And then Mopar's 5150 got the Challenger. God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm going to do with a Dart truck and trying to get a van. These guys are getting all this cool stuff. But
so speaking of which, how are your projects coming along?
They're not coming along at all right now.
Sorry, I asked.
I'm motivated to get them done. I just need to get out there in the garage, but I'm not going to lie. This whole COVID stuff has really kicked me in the teeth, and it's made my day job, there's more work involved with that, so I'm working longer hours and doing the podcast stuff. It really when I was on that show with with Rob Kibbe talking about doing podcasts, he's absolutely right. There's a lot that goes into these things. If you want a good show, I could post non-edited shows and stuff, but I try to put out as quality of a product as I can, so that it's enjoyable, but it just takes a lot of time. And to be honest, right now I'm trying to save money, And just because, who knows what this thing's going to happen, I just want to make it through the rest of this year. And then, because my goal was to have them both running by summertime. The engine for the Dart is still not done, but I do have the 318. So I was like, all right, well, let me just do that project. And then I started to do a little bit of work on the Dart. And then I felt guilty because my truck is in my wife's parking spot and she will never let me live that down. And it's been in there for over a year. And I told her it was going to be in there for 2 weeks. So I've been in the doghouse for a better part of a year.
Yeah.
And, but the truck's out there right now. Thank you for coming on the show because I'll be able to get this one done and hopefully have time tomorrow night to get in there and start working and trying to finish this wiring harness in that truck because that's the only thing holding me back, really.
Really?
It started having wiring issues because the wiring was so shot on it. It was just a rat's nest, dude. It was bad.
Those trucks, I mean, unfortunately, their harnesses were not the greatest. I couldn't tell you how many trucks I've popped the door open in a boneyard and it's like the cluster's out and you just see all this fried wiring sitting there,
I've never seen a good one that wasn't fried.
Yeah.
I don't see very many tins in the wrecking yard, but when I do, I always check because if I can just take one of those clusters and just save it, then I will. Yeah. Never have I seen one not burned. Never have I not seen a tin grill with some sort of, backyard mechanic wiring job, some screw job. I'm surprised they didn't have a bunch of toggle switches like that car you were talking about last time.
Yeah, the Challenger.
Yeah, the Challenger. I look at them and I'm like, oh God, every time, so.
Dude, it's probably the only thing that ever killed them because
it is.
Like that landscaper truck, that thing, that Spirit of 76 hammered all the way around. It's like, that's the typical Dodge thing. People just ran them into the ground. And I honestly don't think if it didn't quit running, it would still be on the road. Like people just keep driving them until they completely die. And it's probably that harness that dies first. You know, it's like, it's time to send it to the junkyard now,
Absolutely.
But
that's, it's a bummer. But that was the whole idea with mine was, okay, I know it runs. It's a slant 6. You have to pretty much kill 4 of the cylinders for that thing to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I knew it ran. I was like, well, the carb's tired on it. So I just went the cheap route and I eBayed a 2-barrel Carter, a knockoff, a Chinese knockoff. And it worked just fine. I fired it up first try. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even have to tune. I mean, I need to tune it, but I mean, it ran fine. Like, of course, there's some fine tuning involved, but I was surprised. So I was like, all right, sweet. And then like, God, not even a week later, I got in there to do some work and start to address the wiring. And it just would not stay running for me. And I'm like, what is going on here? So it was getting fuel, spark, air. It's the only thing it could come down to had to be the ignition. Because it got to the point where I changed the actual ignition. I got a different ignition, and that
switch, like the whole harness.
Yeah. Okay. So it worked, and I was like, okay, cool. And then it started doing the same thing again. So as I started tracing things, I realized, okay, this is a complete. Just trying to figure out the wiring that the guy had set up, it was a nightmare. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do an aftermarket harness. How hard can it be? Well, if you're an idiot when it comes to wiring, and I don't know what I was thinking. Because usually when I take on jobs with cars, because I'm not a mechanic and I never pretend like I'm a know-it-all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With wiring, my intention was to do it all in a couple weekends and stay focused on it so I could, keep track of what I was doing. Now that I've spent so much time on and off the project, thankfully, I was smart about it and left it in sections. Like I ran all the wiring that goes to the back. I ran it through the frame. So now it's just laying out of the back of the frame, ready to hook up to all the lights and stuff back there. The engine bay, everything is routed. I mean, I went through and I loomed everything. I zip tied everything just so it's super clean and it will be easy if I need to trace something down, because this harness, every 6 inches, it tells you exactly where the wire is going. So that's the easy part.
Yeah.
And I have everything laid out in the engine bay. The everything connected to the engine is good. It's all I have left in the engine bay is the lights. The cab, that's going to be a whole nightmare because it's a universal kit, and they give you instructions, and they're really good instructions if you know what you're doing, and I don't.
Yeah.
So, looking at it, it's like reading Chinese, but I have every type of wiring diagram for the truck, and so far it's helped me. But now I've run into the problem of just coming up with the time. So, thanks to my buddies like Jonny Mopar coming and saving the day, I can probably squeeze a couple weekends and just get that thing done. That's my goal. I just want to get that thing done because once it's all wired up, I can fire that key, and if it doesn't turn, then I know I screwed it up.
Right.
And I got to be honest, man. There's been times in the past year where I have honestly thought about starting over with everything and going, I'm just doing this wrong. I'm in over my head. Sell everything I have and just start fresh with a different car and just focus on one project. But the problem with that is I can't, because I'm an addict. I have to have more than one thing going at a time. That's why I'm looking for a van. I have no reason to buy a van other than I want one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at right now. I'm hoping the next time I talk to you, I can tell you, Jonny, the truck fired up. Then the dash got caught on fire, and I sold it on Craigslist.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man.
Well,
always a pleasure with Jonny Mopar coming on the podcast. Is there anything you wanted to cover? I'm starting to get tired and loopy. I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning.
No, I think I'm good, man. We'll I was throwing some pictures up. I figured I'd throw a few pictures up of the truck, and then I'll save the carnage picture for you. Let me know when you're gonna put the podcast out there, and I'll send you a picture of it.
Yeah, send me some pictures. I will, like we did last time for the promo stuff. Send me some pictures you'd like to see up there, and I'll pick one.
Yeah. Okay.
That'll be cool.
Sounds good.
But all right, guys. Well, thanks for listening as usual. Jonny, thanks for joining me as usual. It's always fun, man. I love talking to you. I think it's always a great time. This guy's got so many stories, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you had as many stories as you do cars.
I guess every car is a story, but
that's correct.
I don't know, man. I feel like I'm gonna run out eventually.
I know. I'm trying to. What cars have we not talked about yet?
Ooh.
We've mentioned them all.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I don't know that they're big stories, but like the 69 Furies I just told you about, one of them was, well, we'll leave it for some other discussion.
I like it. Cliffhanger with Jonny Mopar. All right, everybody. That's it. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. This is going to be another 2-part episode. Jonny Mopar and I like to talk for 2 hours at a time because it's so fun. And Jonny, like I said, Johnny's entertaining. Usually I just sit back and listen to the stories and interject every few minutes just to make sure everybody knows I'm still alive. So this has been fun, Jonny, as usual.
Yeah, I always have a good time, and thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Anytime, reach out. And Jonny and I have something special that we're going to be doing here pretty soon. So look forward to that. I'm not going to tell anybody about it right now, and Jonny isn't either. But we're going to be doing these a lot more often. I'll say that.
Sweet.
So yeah, folks, no Mopar left behind. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Jonny.
All right. See you, Chris.
Thanks for joining Jonny Mopar and I for part 2 of this installment of Direct Connections. I love these shows because I love to talk Mopars with other enthusiasts, and it's always a great time talking Mopars with my friends like Jonny. So thanks to him for coming on the show once again. But before we put our foot to the wood, I want to answer a couple of questions from last week that were sent to Jonny and I on Facebook while we were doing the show. We tried to answer one on the show, but didn't have the answer. Well, today I have the answer. First, we'll start off with John Turner's question, and he asked Jonny and I this. I have a 1970 Plymouth Sport Fury 383. My car has a curved back window, but I have seen the same year with a bubble-style back window as well. My question is, was that an option of some sort, or maybe just a difference between late year versus early, and if so, which is which? Josh, I did a little digging and realized that I was having a brain fart during the show, And I was actually thinking of the earlier Fastback Furies, not the 1970s. So the difference between your car and the others is simple. In 1970, there were two styles of rooflines available, the standard hardtop and the formal hardtop. It sounds like your car has the more stylish standard hardtop, which is very cool. Thanks, Josh, for sending in your question. I hope we were able to help you out. The second question we got was from Michael Irwin, and it came in after the show was over, so we weren't actually able to address it on the show. But Michael's question was, why hasn't Dodge come out with a high-performance convertible? Chevy has Camaro, Ford the Mustang. Isn't there enough of a market for Dodge? Thanks for the question, Michael. I'm going to take a blind stab at this one with no actual knowledge, but I would imagine that instead of putting the resources towards engineering a convertible version of the Challenger, because they're not going to do a convertible four-door, so the 300 when it was around and the Charger out of the question. But as far as the Challenger goes, I think Dodge decided instead of doing that engineering and the research and development of a convertible to just build supercharged monsters for the street. I don't know about you, but if Dodge had asked me or the entire enthusiast market what they would rather have, Hellcats, Hellcat Red Eyes, Super Stocks, and Demons, or a convertible, I think I can speak for quite a few of us and say, hey, give us horsepower or give us death. Let the Fords and Chevys have the convertible, and we'll take the most powerful lineup in the world instead. But, thinking about it, I'm like, the Challenger's already heavy. I would imagine that the amount of work going in to make sure it was strong enough to be a convertible and handle the power, would probably add some pounds on that thing. So, they're already heavy gals. So, I personally just give us the horsepower. You can keep the, sunny days. I'll use a sunroof. You know what I mean? So that's what I think. I don't know if that's actually what FCA was thinking or what, but I'm not going to complain about what we have as far as Challengers. You know what I mean? Would it be cool if there was a convertible? Yeah. And actually, there's a lot of aftermarket companies that make convertibles. I've seen them. God knows how expensive they are, but they're out there. If you really, really have to have a Challenger convertible, I'm sure you can find a company to convert one for you. But that's my answer, Michael. I hope I was able to help you out a little bit with that. Thanks to you and Josh for sending in your questions. There you have it, my friends. Another episode of Talking Mopars Direct Connections is in the books. For more information about this podcast or to listen and subscribe to the show, please visit talkingmopars.com. And don't forget that you can send me your Mopar stories, your questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, and everything else on your Mopar addicted mind to Chris at talkingmopars.com. Or you can leave me a voice message on my voicemail box at 209-28-MOPAR to hear yourself on the show. Folks, don't forget to take part in the Build Mopar Community Built Project car from my friends over at HemiPages.com. The car is named the Dart Pack. It is a 1968 Dodge Dart Superstock tribute car with a modern Hemi. For more information about the Dart Pack and the project, head on over to buildmopar.com to learn about the project and how you can participate in the build without spending a single penny. It's going to be a lot of fun, and the car is going to be debuted at the Modern Street Hemi Shootout in 2021. Details on that to come. But for now, head on over to buildmopar.com. Also, if you've always wanted a Hemi-powered classic Mopar, but you just can't afford the second-generation Elephant, I know I can't, I would suggest hunting down a third-generation Hemi. Those are the ones found in your modern Mopars. And take that Hemi and throw it in between the fenders of that classic Mopar you got. And to help you iron out all the technical details and get all the info you need to do the swap yourself, head on over to my buddies over at DIYHemi.com. They can help you simplify the process so that you can have a reliable modern Hemi at a fraction of the cost of a classic Elephant. The best part is that with that Gen 3 Hemi, you have access to a ton of aftermarket options to make it even more powerful and still have that reliability found with fuel injection. So head on over to DIYHemi.com. One last thing before we go. If you'd like to help support the show, jump on over to TalkingMopars.com and head on over to the store and click Visit the Shop. There you will find all the current Talking Mopars merch like t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, stickers, and more. So not only can you get some cool stuff, but you can also help me keep pumping out this Mopar awesomeness for you every week. That's it, my friends. Until we talk again, I am your host, Chris Albrecht, and that was Talking Mopars Direct Connections.
Thank you for listening to Talking Mopars, your direct connection to all things Mopar. Until next time, remember, no Mopar left behind.